Well, today our speaker is Eric Hellman, and our musician, as you've heard, is Nathan Aswell. Now, the connection between these two wonderful gentlemen is shrouded in mystery. They seem to have a cosmic connection with each other, each anticipating the other's next move. I'm wondering if maybe they were twin brothers separated at birth, one ending up in Mississauga and the other in Montreal. Just something to think about, but not get worried about it right now. Let's just relax and listen as Nathan sings us into meditation and Eric delivers us a message about being loving. Take it away, Nathan.
Thanks, Betsy. In this time and in this place is the grace to love. With these hands and with this heart, I can start to love, to love, to love, to love. I've been bruised and I've been burned. Still I yearn to love. So I'll forgive and I'll forget, pay my debt to love, to love, to love, to love. Because love is all there is, ever was and will be. I may win and I may lose, still I'll choose to love. I may stand and I love, to love, to love.
Thank you, Nathan. You are a consummate musician and a deep and beautiful soul.
Right back at you, brother.
So as you let those strains of music and words echo inside of your being, I invite you to relax into your chair, whatever you're sitting on, and begin to feel the love. That may not be readily evident in all our lives right now. And that's okay. I just invite you to take a breath and begin to relax. Perhaps you'll feel a cold or warmth or pulsation in your hands, a stirring in your seat or your feet. Perhaps you'll simply begin to settle and feel the energy dropping down inside of you as you shift from focusing on the outer to the deeper within. Love is my decision, but there's no pressure, no shoulds. You don't have to do anything until you're ready. Now take another breath and begin to feel your eyes relax and soften, your face, your head, your shoulders, your upper body. As you let go from holding on, feel it in your seat, in your legs. Feel that connection to the floor. And feel yourself being wrapped in the arms of love. In this time and in this place, is the grace of God. The peace of spirit. And the love that dwells deep within us. Imagine that energy inside of you beginning to fill you, percolate through you, and begin to move out from you, out from your heart, out from your soul, to each person who's on this call, this video today, to all the people who will come afterwards, to all the people in the city or town where you live, and then just to ripple out to the world. Because you are that wave of love. Now, with one more invitation to relax and breathe, I invite us all into the silence for a moment, a few moments, to experience peace and be still. Now, as you begin to hear my voice again, and the gentle sounds of Nathan's music, I invite you to come back. Come back from those far off places that are also part of you. Always there, waiting to be touched. Come back and merge them with this reality. Feel yourself sitting on the chair. Start to move your hands or your feet, and your body. Just begin to feel yourself connecting back here and now. Perhaps you hear sounds in the room, see flickers of light. Open up to what you're seeing on the computer screen or hearing on the telephone, however you're connecting. Take a breath, bring yourself back fully, and be present into the wonder and the possibilities of what can happen for you and for all of us this morning. All right. Thank you, Nathan, my brother. Even if we were separated at birth, we always know that connection.
Connection is secure.
So with that, good morning to all of you. It's a pleasure to be back with you. I can feel some stirring in me, so there's something happening. Well, let's see where it goes. So last month in my talk in March, I spoke to you about my passion for creating what I call healing change in the world. And that change was rippling through all of the songs that Nathan selected this morning. And I would put them kind of into two categories. One is the healing of our planet, which definitely needs healing in so many different ways, but it's also the healing of people, of humanity, in all of the kinds of conditions we face. So last month's talk was about using wisdom to do that. And this month, I'm calling it the power of love, healing our world through that love. So as we are doing this year, taking one of the 12 powers each month, as you might just have recognized, the theme for April is that word love. But I want to take it out of it just being a word. So I'd like to explore it in this way. Not just as a Valentine's Day way either. And I think you know what I mean by that. It's not just the love of hearts and flowers and chocolates, although all of those are really good. I love each one of those. But I want to explore love with you in what it really means to be loving and how to live that love practically and sometimes in unusual ways in our daily lives. So are you ready? As I did last month, I'd like to invite you to look through 4 windows onto life. Ways of seeing, to see what resonates inside of you. Because for me, that's where spirit is speaking to each one of us in that way that catches us, that is an aha or takes us to a deeper place. So the first of those windows or stories that I'd like to share is about somebody I've never spoken about here before, my mother. Yes. Here's my mother in the mid-1990s. And I get caught up every time I look at this photo because I just see a beautiful, radiant, loving soul there. And one of the reasons she's so radiant is that she connected with this man whose name is Alan. She had known Alan for a number of years before, but only in a very slight way. But Alan decided to come to Canada in the mid-1990s, a couple of years after my father had died and his wife had died. And when the two of them met for the second time, she fell deeply in love, head over heels in love, as she told me recently. She said, we were not alike in so many ways, but we just adored each other, pure and simple. So much so, she said, that she knew she wanted to be with him. So sometime afterwards, she decided to move down to Melbourne, Australia to be with him. And a year after that, they were married. Well, she wasn't all sweetness and light. You see, she's had to sell her house and move 13,000 plus kilometers down to Melbourne, Australia, to a new family and a new place. And so there were times, she said, where I sometimes wondered, what have I done? What am I doing here, for heaven's sake? But then she followed it by saying to me, and then just his coming into the room would make me feel weak at the knees. Wow. She said, it's surprising what being in love can accomplish. And it really is, because in my deep desire to be with them for their wedding, I created a project where I could create the money to actually go down and, in this picture, crash their honeymoon and watch the two of them together and see how much love they were sharing and did for 20 years together. So why do I share that? Well, I'd like to turn it over to you, to invite you to think of something you love, something that lights or fills you up just at the mention of it. Maybe it's a person in your life, present or past. Feel that stirring, that love, that preciousness. Maybe it's a pet that has filled you with joy. Maybe it's a place that stills you and moves you. Or maybe it's an activity like gardening or music or looking out on nature. Maybe it's simply a state of being, of you, that you touch in prayer or meditation. Whatever it is, just allow that to begin to come in. And it may hold some shakiness for you or even some tears, but I assure you that in behind that, there is also a richness and a wave of love there. So my question is, how did or has that love inside of you moved you to change in some way or to live your life differently as it did with my mother? Something to think about in the minutes, the hours, and the days ahead. Let's turn to the second window of this talk, a window about my friend Austin in Toronto. Well, Austin's an 86-year-old man. He is pretty normal in many ways, as most of us are. He loves eating breakfast in his favorite diner in Toronto. He loves sports, as the pictures are in that diner behind him, but he also is in quite leading edge. He's different because he also believes in the power of love. Well, a few years ago, Austin came across an idea that said the heart could generate and actually send out love, as I've shown you in this picture. Well, he said, as I talked to him recently, one day I decided to try it. So I began to visualize a golden light filling my room, my house, and the neighborhood. And then sending out that light and love energy to my friends and all who might want it. Austin did this visualization, this love meditation for several days in a row. On one of those days, a friend of his who's able to tune into subtle energies and even see them felt compelled to drive his car down Austin Street. And after that, he called Austin and left him a phone message. And on the message, he said this: "When I drove by your house, I saw the most beautiful light. A serene, loving, kind, and warm energy was pouring out of your windows," he said. "I could just feel this unbelievable love energy streaming out like sunlight." Well, that call just gobsmacked Austin because it confirmed for him and demonstrated that it wasn't just his imagination that was sending out love, that somehow it could be experienced by those around him. And maybe you have even had that question, that wondering sometimes when you send out love or prayers or thoughts, whether they're actual or just imagination. Well, you see, this is where imagination inside crosses the boundary between inside and outside. That our inner reality is connected with our outer reality. And that's the groundedness of spirit in the world of form. Austin now does this meditation on almost a daily basis, but he doesn't stop there. He also invites others through his writing and through websites to share the power of love. And this is one website where he's done that. It's called A Call to Love, where he invites people to create a worldwide web of love to help us through these turbulent times. The address, in case you're interested in it, you can't see this screen, it's acalltolove, all one word, .com. I invite you to take a look at it and explore what you might find there. In speaking to Austin, I've known him for many years, but I finally asked him the question, why do you do this love meditation and these other things around love? And he said this: "I feel that I've been given this gift of the ability to love. And I feel profoundly responsible to share this as best I can." And then he left me with one final question, which I also offer to you. It's this: What would it be like if we all took a risk and loved more? Another question for you to ponder in the days ahead. My third window that I'm inviting you to look through is what I'll call seeing others with love. You know, last week was Easter. And for me, Easter and Christmas are the two times when we begin to ponder and reflect on the transformations of that man named Jesus. You know, as I look on the miracles he created and did, for example, walking on water or healing this paralyzed man and was lowered down into the temple. Maybe it's the healing of his disciple Peter's mother-in-law, or raising Lazarus from the dead. As I let those stories in and look on those pictures, for me what comes up is various things. It's awe, it's wonder, it's that I feel inspired to want to do those things too, and more, as he said that we would. But then that question of the human mind comes in, but how do we do those things? Well, reflecting as I have on those things for many years, I believe he did them by knowing and seeing the truth inside of us, the deeper reality. Just like that seventh wave of love is always beyond what we can see, I think he looked into the mind of who we are, the Christ of who we are. From the Christ in him to the Christ in us. Well, in fact, in A Course in Miracles, which was dictated by Jesus, according to the wisdom in it, he said this: the Christ in you and others is perfect. That is the perfect divine self we are wanting to remember. See with only that mind. He went on to say, your mind is so powerful a light that you can look into others' minds and enlighten them. Wow. As I can enlighten yours. He goes on to say, as we see them truly, they will be healed. The mortal limitations released so that the divine can be present and experienced in this reality. Well, if you're wondering about maybe a little more encouragement about how to do that, here's another way he put it. Look upon your brother or sister with faith, with love, and with tenderness, compassion, gentleness. Imagine, that's the theme for today. Imagine being able to learn to do that ourselves, but then also to do it for each other. Wouldn't that transform our lives? And you know, that is what the whole unity movement was founded on. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore doing it for themselves and finding out that it worked and then doing it for others. That's why we're here, is to follow in that legacy and learn it for ourselves and to share it. And it's what I want to do too. And that to me is what encapsulates this idea that I call healing change for ourselves, for each other, and for the world. And if you find it hard to take all of that in, I take you back to the dancing bear, that bear about to dive into the pool or into life that you may see on your screen. And if you don't, just imagine this fuzzy looking creature in a Speedo shaking his body and getting ready to jump or dive in. And if you can, imagine it as yourself. Yes, as often said, don't take ourselves so seriously, but a little more lightly. Definitely my life lesson for this journey. I invite you to take a breath, And here we go into the fourth window of today, what I call treating those around us with love. And this one's going to be very different from last series of stories because this one's about my 92-year-old cousin, who I'll call Roger. Roger lives in Vancouver in a 100-year-old house. It's not quite as big as the house I've got on the screen, but it's a big old house. And Roger has 2 locks that both require keys on the front door of his house. He's an old man living alone and he needs to feel secure. So he has these 2 locks. The only challenge is every time he comes to open these 2 locks from the inside or the outside, he has to pull out this set of keys. Has maybe 10 or 15 different keys that mostly look alike, and he has to fumble through each one of them to find the right key for the top lock and then the right key for the bottom lock. And he does that coming from his house and going into his house. And so one day I thought, how could I make Roger's life just a little bit easier? What came to me was to ask him if I might take those 2 keys and put keycaps on them, colored keycaps, put them on a second key ring, attach it to his first so that whenever he pulls out those keys, he'll be able to find the ones he wants more easily. Well, that's a pretty simple, mundane idea. But sometimes those are the ideas that really transform lives. And it has for him, because now when he opens his door, he does it in a much easier fashion. The second story of Roger, and also involves my mother. When we enter his house, just inside his main door, there's this old telephone. Not quite as old as this one, almost going back to the originals, but his was installed in the 1930s, so it's pretty old. Well, Roger spends most of his time watching television in the living room on the opposite side of his big old house. So what happens when the telephone rings? He has to use that cane to push himself up out of his chair. And as long as that takes, and to walk many paces across his big old house, it ends up taking him 25 to 30 rings before he can answer. And many of the times he doesn't get the phone call. So here's what we decided to do. I encouraged my mom to buy her a portable phone set for Christmas. A phone, not just with one set, but 3 handsets, so he could have one throughout his house and be able to move around with it when the telephone rings. Well, again, a simple thing, right? Not so simple, because it's both simple and powerful, because now Roger can answer the phone after 5 or 6 rings, and he gets a lot more of his calls, and it also makes it easier for us when we're calling him. So let's bring those 4 stories together by asking the question, whose life could you make better right now? You know, what I've realized is that we have the ability and the power to be moved by love, as my mother was, to radiate our life and love, because life and love are really the same thing, as my friend Austin did. We have the ability and the power to transform our world through spirit and love, as Jesus did, and to touch each other's lives in the simplest ways, as my mom and I did with our cousin. Love really can work miracles. The everyday kind and the Cecil B. DeMille kind, the kind that are almost impossible to imagine and yet are possible and are in our time things that we too will demonstrate. So let's take a moment and take those ideas and relax into your seat, whatever you're sitting on. Take a breath and begin to reflect on what that might mean for us. what that might mean for our own healing, our relationships, our connection with one another and our planet Earth. And I'll close with these questions. How is love calling you? You. And what could you do this week to literally transform the world around you through the radiant power of love? And with that, I invite my brother Nathan to share a song that's always spoken to me, not just about weddings, but about life. It's called The Wedding Song by the Paul of Peter, Paul, and Mary, whose real name is Paul Stuckey. Go for it.
Absolutely beautiful talk, Eric. And it's my pleasure to play the wedding song for you, for all of us. He is now to be among you at the calling of your hearts. Rest assured this troubadour is acting on his part. The union of your spirits here has caused him to remain. For whenever two or more of you are gathered in his name, there is love. There is love. Shall leave his mother and a woman leave her home. They will travel on to where the two shall be as one. As it was in the beginning, is now and till the end. Woman draws her life from man and gives it back again, and there's love, and there's love. Oh, then what's to be the reason for becoming man and wife? Is it love that brings you here, or is it love that brings you life? For if loving is the answer, then who's the giving for? Do you believe in something that you've never seen before? Oh, there's love. Oh, there's love. The marriage of your spirits here has caused him to remain. For whenever two or more of you are gathered in his name, there is love. there is love.
Well, thank you so much, Eric, for your reassuring and enlightening message about love. And thank you, Nathan, for your heartfelt and uplifting songs. And just a reminder for everyone, you can enjoy listening to Nathan in his morning musings every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. All you have to do is get on to his website, which is Nathen, Nathen, aswell.com. And you can also catch him on YouTube too.